but you eat a half a Big Mac on TikTok and you become world famous.
Yep.
So the French fry financial guy came from eating nothing but McDonald's for 100 days and losing almost 60 pounds in the process. I always knew I'd make Fortune magazine. I just didn't think it would be for eating a Big Mac on TikTok. That is
None
not
of us
how I
did.
thought I would get there. And I remember the first time I stepped in the ring, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, he just wears me out. I am a human punching bag. I can't block a single punch. Everything he wants, he's putting on a clinic to everybody else on how to beat the tar out of somebody for 2.5 minutes, just beating me around the ring. Your business career is going to feel like that at times. And when it does, just understand that's usually you're one step away from having some really big success. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I love finding the life hacks, the shortcuts, the easier way, but then I'll just outwork you doing those because I grew up on a ranch, breaking and training horses. So I've got the work ethic, but why not work as effectively as possible?
So how do you introduce yourself at parties? You became famous for reasons that are a little bit different than what you've been practicing. Could you talk a little bit about your background and what you do?
Well, so the introduction at parties now is the French fry financial guy.
Okay, I like that. What does that mean?
So because of 30 years of coaching, training, developing people at the highest levels, companies like Microsoft, Orbitz, Oracle have all brought me in to revamp their training programs, executive leadership programs. No real notoriety. Taking 2 companies public, 2 successful IPOs, no real notoriety. Professional bull rider, little bit of notoriety. But you eat a half a Big Mac on TikTok and you become world famous.
Yep.
So the French fry financial guy came from eating nothing but McDonald's for 100 days and losing almost 60 pounds in the process.
Wow.
So Today Show, Morning in America, People Magazine, Fortune Magazine. I always knew I'd make Fortune magazine. I just didn't think it would be for eating a Big Mac on TikTok. That is not how I thought I would get there.
Do you recall that? I think it might have been a decade or two ago. The person who ate McDonald's every meal, every day for, I forget if it's 90 days or what the duration was.
He didn't make it past 30 days. He almost died in 30 days.
Okay. So what's different between the way he went about it and the way that you went about it?
Yeah, so he was super size me. I'm half size me. Meaning he had to eat everything on them. So whenever they fed him, whatever they served him, if they said, do you want us to supersize that? He had to say yes. And he had to eat everything on his plate. My whole premise was that you can eat anything you want, even junk food, even McDonald's, stuff that's not supposed to be good for you.
Yeah.
That if you eat it you minimize how much you're putting in, your body can handle it. And it's not what we're eating, it's how much we're eating for weight loss. Now, do I think you should eat an avocado for brain health? Absolutely. But when it comes to getting weight off, find something you actually enjoy. And my name, Maginnis, Kevin Maginnis, I was a bigger guy, so Big Mac was a nickname that had been bestowed upon me at times. So I'm like, if Batman can embrace bats, I can embrace Big Macs. Right? So decided to eat nothing but McDonald's for 100 days. And so many people came out of the woodwork. You're going to die. He almost killed himself. And why do you think you can do it when he, it like every marker in his body was destroyed when you think about, triglycerides and cholesterol and just all the health markers. And all of them were off the scale bad for him. So about 30% of the people that were following along were like, you're crazy. You're going to die. How dare you tell our kids to eat McDonald's? If I find you, I'm going to take you out. I mean, there's a lot of visceral reaction to it.
Yeah.
Then you had the other 30%-ish that were like, yeah, calories in, calories out. You'll be fine, right? You'll lose weight because of the lower calories. Because my whole goal was to half size me. I was going to eat 3 meals a day, all of them cut in half. So I'd order a number 5 meal, a number 7 meal, which, by the way, at breakfast time is 2 sausage burritos with the hash browns. Yes, I do know the menu inside and out at this point. But you'd order the meal, and I'd eat one of the burritos and half the hash browns, and I'd save the other burrito and the other half for lunch. So every meal, I would just eat half of whatever that meal was. If I got a Big Mac, I'd cut the Big Mac in half, eat half the French fries, half an apple pie. I'd save the other half the Big Mac and the fries and the apple pie for the next meal. So by eating 3 times a day, no snacking in between, and every meal cut in half, if you look at the menu at McDonald's, the average menu item, a numbered menu item, about 1,000 calories, sometimes 1,200, sometimes 900. They're about 1,000 calories. So if I'm eating 3 of those a day, cut in half, I'm eating about 1,500 calories. My body burns about 2,500 calories, so I'm in a calorie deficit. I wrestled in school, boxed in the military. Cutting weight is just reducing how much is on your plate, and you'll be able to cut weight. So I knew that I would be able to lose weight doing it. What I didn't know is, would the health markers get worse because I was eating junk food?
Right.
So every 30 days, I did a blood test along the way, and every way you can measure someone's health, dramatically better. Triglycerides down 200 points, cholesterol down 65 points, my A1C pre-diabetic before back into healthy ranges. Even the oh, you're eating sodium with every meal. You're eating French fries. You're eating so much salt. Your blood pressure is going to go off the chart. 118 over 69. I got the blood pressure of a teenager. Turns out obesity was more dangerous than a French fry.
You actually went into what my next question was going to be, and you still blew my mind. So what's going on there? Like, is it like a mercury switch? Like when you go above a certain caloric intake, then all of a sudden stuff gets out of whack, and then it becomes like I guess like a chain reaction in terms of adverse health.
Great question. So my premise, my take on it, and my body, and a ton of people following along who also did fast food. Some did McDonald's, some did Chick-fil-A, some did others. Others did home cooked meals, but they all just started cutting their meals in half and eating 3 meals a day, just smaller portions, and going to bed hungry. Actually, you're not feeling hungry is not going to kill us, right? But we most people haven't felt true hunger in a long time. I call it seek the heat before you eat, meaning you're feeling that little burn in your stomach, or you feel the growl in your stomach. For me, it's actually a heat sensation that tells me my incinerator is kicked on. I'm actually burning some of my fat reserves, and that's the only signal that says it's okay to eat again. The clock should not tell us when to eat again. Think about animals in the wild. You don't see any overweight animals in the wild. All the animals look like other animals, that kind. Rhinoceros look like rhinoceros. Elephants look like elephants. You don't see a morbidly obese elephant. The only time you see obese animals is when we put them on a food schedule. When we schedule their food, animals get obese. Interesting thought when you think about it. So how come when we overeat do all the markers go bad? Because my premise is that when we put food in, and my wife had the best analogy of all, I think. She said, if you're putting gas in your car and you filled up your tank, but you kept putting gas in, it would spill out onto the ground. If we put food in our body and then we put more food in before we've had time to process what's in there, it spills out on our hips, it spills out into all these other problems and creates obesity. And obesity all of a sudden starts causing all sorts of problems. For example, just your ability to have the insulin go through. If you're getting fat clogs around that, you're pinching off the ability for insulin regulation. I mean, there's all these problems that happen. Obviously, arteries and heart and everything else take a beating when we become obese, when we have excess fat on our body. So if we're eating more than our body can process, all that domino effect happens inside of our body. But the way it was told to me, one of the big motivators for me to start this whole thing was someone said, I see people who are overweight at 60. You don't see a lot of overweight 80-year-olds. And I'm like, that is true. You don't see a lot of overweight 80-year-olds. So if I wanted to live longer to see my grandkids' kids, right? If I wanted to actually not just see them, but be able to roll around on the floor and have fun with them and remember their names, then I need to start thinking about longevity in a little bit different light. And if obesity wasn't going to help me have longevity, I needed to get rid of that.
That's really fascinating. And what you said about not letting the clock dictate your meals, I think, is really wise. I'll definitely try to hold on to that. What I like, a couple things I like about this conversation. One is the convergence or overlap of personal development and professional development. You're taking what I presume is kind of a finance mind and analysis and applying it to something that we all do, which is eating or taking in calories, and then analyzing it as such and providing this unique insight. Because usually, maybe I'm assuming things here, but it seems that we tend to stay in a lane. Like I am wearing this hat, I do this thing, and when I'm not, I'm playing a different role. Sometimes what I like to call the outsider insights. You look at something from a different perspective, and you're able to innovate, let's say, or offer just novel insight. So
Well,
Where,
I think that's a lot of advances in any industry
yeah,
come from someone else coming in and bringing something from another industry to an industry that's never seen that applied to it.
yeah.
And there's just so many success stories of that. But go on, please.
No, thank you. Well, that's you basically we're on the same path here. So when you talk about going to Oracle and going to some of these big Fortune 500 companies, are you coming in as an outsider and kind of looking at the 30,000-foot view and just telling them this is where I'd focus or this is what I'm observing? And could you talk a little bit about that relationship?
So as we're talking to entrepreneurs here, as we're talking to people who want to have that or have an entrepreneur mindset and they actually want to foster that, one of the things that just as a mindset is look to improve all five areas: faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun.
Okay.
Faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. And faith can be spirituality, it doesn't have to be religion, but faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. If you're improving all five of those areas, if you have a 1% improvement every day for 100 days, 100 days later you're 100% better.
Yeah.
So being able to look at what to improve, when those comes would bring me in, it was in my role as a coach, a trainer, a mentor. So I'd been in sales leadership, leadership development, coaching, and mentoring. So they would bring me in to look at sales training programs or leadership development programs. But anytime I would come into an organization, that's the first step, is just do a diagnose before you prescribe. You don't just come in waving, hey, I have a solution and I don't know what the problem
Right.
is. As an entrepreneur, especially, what problem can you solve? What skill sets do you have? What's an area that you can bring value in? And you bring value by solving problems. There's got to be an existing problem. No pain, no change. Why would I change something
Right.
that's working well unless you can show me that it's not working well, that my perception of working well isn't accurate, and you can show me how much weller, made up words, right? How much better it could be that you could actually improve that situation. So, number one way to do that is just come in with pain. Another way to do it, though, is just to identify goals. If you're identifying a goal, if a company or a person says, I have a goal, by definition, they're not hitting that at this point. By definition, they're not there.
Yeah.
So the easiest pain question of all is to get a goal on the table, identify where the person is now, and say, why aren't you there yet?
Yeah.
What's stopping you? What's holding you back? And if they don't know, that's where the diagnose, actually observing what's going on that could be stopping them from being able to reach that goal.
And it might be the wrong goal.
Definitely you could have a wrong goal or an unachievable goal with the skill set, tools, or resources you have at this moment. So there may be, it might be an unrealistic goal, or the goal might be fine, but the fact that they have the goal and they've never asked the question, but what stopped us, what's holding us back, that will always uncover pain. It will the answer to that question just from a financial standpoint. If you say I have a goal of retiring at 65, and we identify how much money is that going to take to get there, and I say, why don't you have that much money already? The answer is going to be pain. Well, I had this situation happen, or I'm not making enough to save enough, or my expenses are too high. There's some reasons why they're not going to be on track for that goal. Or the market took a hit and I lost my money because they weren't using protected asset class products, things that can only go up, never go down, which there are vehicles that have high returns with no risk. But the average person doesn't know what they don't know, so they've never gotten that education. In those organizations, the analogy that I would use in my own mind was always look for the stream. Where are the big rocks in the stream? If I can move some of the big rocks out of the stream and get the water to flow better, then we're going to actually accelerate towards those goals. So what are the big rocks stopping the water flow that would actually get them to that goal?
On that note, something I often hear from younger entrepreneurs, although it may well apply to everyone, is there's a lot of uncertainty they feel in the market and institutions that they would otherwise think they'd trust for a long time. They're now uncertain if they need to innovate or pivot, and they don't know what that is. You mentioned the unknown unknowns. What advice, if you can give any, what words would you give to people in their 20s, say, starting their entrepreneurial journey and thinking about trying to also invest finances at the same time to hopefully have something approaching a secure retirement someday?
So you definitely want a safety net. A lot of people think I'm going to pour all my money into my business and my business is going to be my retirement. My entrepreneurial idea is going to be, I'm going to hit that big home run and that's going to be everything I need. Done correctly, there still needs to be working capital along the way. There are accounts where you can have working capital and be able to leverage that to what we call double dip on the dollar, use the same dollar for two different things. So when you think about a bank As soon as you put your money in the bank literally doesn't leave that money in an account with a bow on it saying this is David's money, no one else touched this money. They're immediately placing that money with third party carriers, but simultaneously they're also loaning that back to us on credit cards, car payments. So they're using the same dollar twice. Most people have never used the same dollar for two different things, but the reality is you can structure accounts just like that for an individual. And now they have working capital to do their business, but they also have the money sitting in their account doing the compound growth it needs to go through to reach their goals. So that's one. The second one is just the mindset. The mindset around saving and investing at all. A lot of people think, and I'll just use debt as an example, because many people have been told pay off your debt. And once you're paid off on your debt, then start investing. That's some of the worst advice in the world because you give your money no time to compound and grow. And we can actually show charts and graphs where someone who started in their 20s and put away just a little bit in their 20s until their 30s and stopped versus someone who started in their 30s and saved all the way to 65. The person who started earlier and stopped putting money in blows away the person who starts when they're 30 because they have time for that money to compound and grow. So this mindset of, oh, let me wait till my business explodes and then I'll have cash flow, or wait till my debt is gone and then I'll invest. No, you want to, if you think about the analogy of a rowboat, if you have a rowboat and one oar is pay off debt and the other oar is invest for your future, if you take the invest oar out and just pay off debt, well, if you're in a rowboat and only row with one oar, our boat goes in circles.
Yeah.
How does that do that financially? Pay off debt, pay off debt, pay off debt. Ooh, big screen TV. Pay off debt, pay off debt, pay off debt. Ah, the kids need braces. Pay off debt, pay off debt, pay off debt. The transmission went out in the car, right? And then entrepreneurially, we can amplify that 100 times by just the things that go wrong when you think you have a plan laid out. The path you think you're going to go on from where you are to success is never a straight line. Ever. It's going to have a lot of detours along the way, and some of them financial detours. So better keep both oars in the water. I don't care if it's 1%, keep both oars in the water. And that way, when some debt pays off or when you get a little financial windfall from the business, you have the habit. You can add to a habit you have. You cannot add to a habit you don't have. So keep both oars in the water. And then get some advice on using the right vehicles, right? Make sure you're getting coaching on what are the best tools to be using where you can leverage that money along the way. So you're not just storing your capital that you need for your business, leverage the capital so it's still earning returns and you can use it for whatever entrepreneurial idea you have.
Are those type of services something that you help other companies with when you advise them?
Absolutely. So not only companies, but individuals, business owners, there's ways to structure things called executive bonus plans. So as an entrepreneur becomes a business owner, being able to actually structure it to where as their business starts to make profit, that you're able to pay yourself an executive bonus. So you take that profit off the bottom line. So you're not paying capital gains tax on that. Always check with your tax advisor before you make any changes. Default answer there. But there are structures where you can pay yourself an executive bonus. And then that money can then be put into one of those types of accounts that gets high returns with no risk. And you can double dip on the dollar. So there's just a lot of ways to leverage the tools that are available. The average person just, again, doesn't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So getting that financial education, and that's what our firm does. It's all financial education. They can't buy anything from us. We don't sell anything. Literally, we're a platform, just like Uber connects somebody who has a car with someone who needs a ride.
Right.
Airbnb connects somebody who has a house with someone who needs a place to stay. We connect someone who has a financial goal of retire early, get out of debt, fund their business, whatever it is, that financial goal. We connect them with the right companies. They can't give us any money. Those companies pay us, never the client. So we're just the financial education. We're the platform connecting them to the right products and services. Then those companies have marketing dollars that when we hand them a client, they pay us off of the marketing dollars that they didn't have to spend because we brought them a client. They didn't have to do a Super Bowl ad or click marketing on the internet. We handed them that client. They compensate us out of the marketing dollars, never the client's money. So there's education that's available. But the problem is if you don't know what questions to ask, well, how can you Google something you don't know exists? How can you AI something you don't know is out there? So getting with a financial professional who actually understands these tools to be able to at least show you the options so you can make informed decisions.
And that's also something I'm hoping to do with this episode here. You mentioned Airbnb and Uber. I remember when each of those started taking off, with the Uber example, there were taxi unions that were kind of pushing against it. With Airbnb, there were hotels as well as some renters. With
And
your,
cities, whole cities, like
yeah,
livid about it.
right.
Yeah.
So anytime there's disruption, like the word implies, there's going to be a bit of movement, a bit of pain, as you said. What is the pain? What is the discomfort with your service? Like, what are you displacing?
The fact that we're displacing other financial professionals, other accounts that a person might have, other financial services companies aren't happy. But what we really do is take what works for the wealthy and we bring it out to people who normally never get that education. 90% of the people we see are people that the average financial professional isn't talking to anyway. So there is no upset people about that. The disruption is going to Walmart, right? We're redirecting dollars that they would have gone and blown, and they're actually getting that money working for them.
Okay.
But when that person does have a financial professional and we're coming in and making an alternate recommendation than what they're currently doing, some people say, well, Kevin, I want to run this by my financial professional. And I'm like, absolutely. Let me be there with you. We'll jump on a Zoom together. And in most cases, the other financial professional doesn't want to be on and doesn't want to have that conversation, which should tell you something right there, right? Why wouldn't they be willing to stand behind what they've already recommended to
Yeah.
have that? If I'm willing to stand behind what I'm recommending, why wouldn't they be willing to stand behind what they recommend? That should be a red flag already. But even when they do come on, like the small percent of times that they are willing to do that, what are they going to say? If I ask my wife, honey, do you think my girlfriend is pretty? And by the way, I've been married 32 years, don't have any girlfriends, right? But you get the analogy. If I ask my wife if she thought my girlfriend is pretty, there's only one answer to that question, right? So, of course, a financial professional can't say that what we've recommended looks good because it either makes them look bad for having not shown it themselves, or it takes away business that they would have as a provider, and now they're going to take a loss in their income. So it's a lose-lose situation for the current advisor if we've actually come in with something that's better for the client than what they currently have. So I
Yeah.
get why they don't want to come to the table, and I get why when they do come to the table, it's not usually a pleasant experience for all involved.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna always back up whatever I recommend, and we have the whole toolbox. We have over 100 different companies and all their products, so there's nothing I can't do. Right? Southwest Airlines uses us for their 401ks. Coca-Cola uses us for their 401ks. So we certainly can help the top 1%, but we take that same ability to negotiate a better deal down to somebody who's a business owner or an entrepreneur wanting to start their own business, or Joe and Mary next door who just want to put away $50 for their kids' college fund. Yes, we're going to take that person that the rest of the industry wouldn't even talk to and make sure they're on track with their financial goals as well.
That sounds incredible. You're talking about Coca-Cola and Southwest Airlines on one end of the spectrum, and then like people in their like mom and pops on the other end. Is there an upper bound or lower bound to the size of client that you take on board?
Our whole motto of our company is no family left behind.
Okay.
No family left behind.
What principles carry over from a family income to a colossal corporation like Coca-Cola?
Your ability to get high returns with no risk. If we put $1 into anything, what's the goal of putting $1 away for the future? Is the whatever dollar I put in, I want a bigger dollar later
That's right.
on after costs, fees, expenses, market risk, and taxes. When you take all those things into consideration, what kind of return am I getting? What kind of fees am I paying? Are there any other hidden expenses? What's the taxes going to be on this? If the market crashes, what's the impact on that? So if you take all 5 things into consideration, the dollar in versus a bigger dollar out, that's all we're looking for. And I don't care whether you're an individual, I don't care if you're an entrepreneur, I don't care if you're a mega corporation, you're all looking for the same thing. If I'm putting $1 into something to grow that dollar, for the smallest dollar in, I want the biggest dollar out after you take everything into consideration. So when you can identify vehicles, financial tools that get high rates of return with no risk, only up, never down, and they're able to grow tax free and take it out tax free, well, guess what? That solves a lot of problems right there for an individual, but also for an organization.
You made all sorts of like spidey senses, red flags pop up in my learned model when you say no risk. Yeah, like what does
Yes.
that mean, no risk?
I have no problem letting people know that there is zero market risk, and I know it's gonna be almost sounds too good to be true. Yeah, but so does eating nothing but McDonald's for 100 days and losing 60 pounds sound too good to be true. I've got no problem saying statements that are facts when somebody else might be a little bit shocked by that statement. Yeah, absolutely. Eat nothing but McDonald's for 100 days and lose 60 pounds. Yes,
And
you
be
can do that.
healthier by the sound of it.
Yeah, and be dramatically healthier. Exactly. So, yeah, when I say no risk, I mean, to answer your question, when I say no risk, it means that if the market does -10, -20, -30, the client loses zero. There is zero market risk. While they're able to gain the upsides, they're not participating in the market risk.
So, could you share maybe anonymized case study of a massive turnaround or a massive like the hero's journey, someone you took on that was underwater just in a bad way, and you were able to help guide them to a place where they 100%ed their, with the five F's like over and over, and now they're in a completely different space?
I the answer is yes, yes, and yes, on so many fronts. I'll give you a financial front on an individual as far as just taking care of what they have. I'll give you another one from one of the ladies who's in business with me, and just what's happened in her life. So our ability to change people's lives, we get compensated for changing other people's lives for the better. Again, not from the client. They can't compensate us when we help them. Those companies compensate us. But one example from a client side, had a young lady, she had built up an account in her 401k at a previous job, but she had left that job and was going to another one. So that money was sitting out here flapping in the breeze, right? Taking market risk. And we rolled over about $370,000. When we rolled the money over, she got a 10% signing bonus. So it took her account over $400,000 in her actual account. And then 2022 happened when the market dropped 27%. And she calls me up, panicked. And I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's like, "Well, I was at work today and everyone was talking about the market went down and someone lost 20%, someone else lost 25%. And they kind of glanced over at me and asked, hey, did my accounts take a hit?" She says, "No, Kevin had put me into an accounts that are protected asset class products, only up, never down." She says, "So I didn't lose anything." And she said, "They laughed at me." She said, "I better go online and check my account balances because there's no way that's true." So she calls me up in a panic. She's like, "Kevin, how much money did we lose?" Translation, how much money did you lose of
Yeah.
my money is really what she's asking, right? And I said, "I don't know. Let's go online and take a look." Now, of course, I already knew, but I wanted her to see the numbers. So I'm like, "I don't know. Let's go take a look." So I had her log into her account. I don't have her login. She has her login, but we just made sure she was connected with the right company. So I jumped online with her. We pulled up on the screen and I said, "Okay, pull up your account, go into your balances. Look what you rolled in. How much did you roll in?" She said, "Well, I rolled in 370,000. I said, "And then what happened?" She said, "Well, I got a signing bonus for moving the money in. Took me over 400,000. I said, "Exactly. How much do you have now?" And she goes across the screen. She looks at the account. She says, "Well, it says I still have over 400,000. I said, "That's because you do. You didn't lose a dime." She's like, "I love you, Kevin. I want to name my grandkids after you." Right? So our ability to completely protect people and to never have to worry about taking a loss to market risk ever again. So that's just one example on the client side, and I can tell that story over and over and over again. But from on the business side, we allow people to start part time. In fact, many of our clients, we actually open the door for them to be a referral partner, a strategic partner in our business, where they're going to refer business to us anyway. They can get a license in the industry and actually get compensated when they do that. So I remember one young lady, she was a nurse, mother of four, helped her get her personal account set up, made sure her college funds were set up for her kids. And she gave me 8 referrals. And I said, "Hey, we have this referral agent program. You can actually be part of the business and you can learn how to be a business owner with us." And she's like, "No, I don't know how to explain these concepts. And I'm working double shifts as a nurse already. I don't have any time to do this." And I asked her, I said, "If that doesn't change, when is that going to change?" She's like, "Okay, that's a good point." I said, "Look, just we'll get you. You got a certificate to be a nurse. You can get a certificate from the state to be able to have financial conversations part time around your schedule." So she agrees. She sticks her toe in the water, not expecting much. But Fast forward, the referrals she gave us, we helped those families. They gave us more referrals, which all went back. And next thing you know, she's making enough money to drop her second shift and go down to one shift and have more quality time with her family. So improving the five F's already. And then she's able to drop both shifts. She's able to leave healthcare and come to wealth care. So that what we are, wealth care instead of healthcare, right? So she comes to wealth care, and now she's making over $750,000 a year, which she would never have that opportunity in the career that she was in. She would never be able to get there. But one of the people she referred, about a year, 2 years in, one of the people she referred as a client said, "Hey, you're making money now. That's working well for you. I think I need to stick my toe in the water there." So she came over. I trained and coached her. And now that young lady, single mom, mother of four, now makes over $1 million a year with me. Crossed just last month, crossed over $1 million a year in personal income. So for me to open the door to coach, train, and develop people to literally completely change their life by helping other people, that feels good. That's a good feeling, by the way.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just kind of like an inside chuckle when you mentioned naming a grandkid after you. I was thinking of that as like a new success metric, like how many people have named their grandchildren after you for who I go with for my wealth health.
Yeah. There you go. I love it. That's awesome.
So you've been very impactful, it seems like. But what are the undone what goals do you have for yourself that you haven't done yet?
Lots. The One of the biggest ones is just continuing the building of the business. I want to have over 1,000 people on the team making over $1 million a year. So just our ability to go impact lives. But here's how impactful this really is. The team that I've built in the last 12 months, I've got the brokers in our business, people I've taught how to be successful, having these conversations with people. I've got over 70 people on the team who make over 100,000, most of them are at 300, 400,000, 500,000 a year. Our team got paid $13 million in the last 12 months. And that's amazing. What else could I have done where I'd have basically a $10 million, $13 million payroll out to my team? But more exciting than that is the families that we've helped, the organizations that we've helped, the plans that we've put in place. When you run the numbers on what those families, what those business owners are going to have in their accounts, and that's going to pass on to their families, the legacy they're leaving behind, it's over $10 billion just in the accounts we've set up in the last 12 months.
Wow.
What else could I have done in my lifetime that would create $10 billion of value in a single year? So as good as that is, I want to turn that 10 billion into 100 billion, and literally on track to do that on a hockey stick growth curve to be able to make that happen. Along with that, I want to increase the longevity, be there for my grandkids, right? I want to be able to remember their names when I do get there. So I want not just the longevity, I want the mental cognitive ability to be there as well. So doing things to make sure that my physical body is able to maintain and go the distance to be able to do that. Want to be there to walk some of them down the aisle. Just those kind of things as far as from a family perspective. But on the business perspective, just continue to actually change families' lives, continue to grow a business that impacts lives the way this does. I don't think of money as a dam you put on a river and you kind of hoard money to yourself. Someone told me one time, think of it as a pipeline. You want to
Right.
build a bigger pipeline because you'll be taken care of, but what else can you pour into? And once you have a heart for giving back, once you have a heart for contribution, you can't have a big enough pipeline. No matter how big it is, you're always going to be able to find a way to pour into others with that. That's what works for us.
Where did this mindset originate for you? Was there a hero or some transformative moment in your life?
Absolutely. When I turned 16, my dad passed away, and I left school in the 10th grade, started working 3 jobs trying to make ends meet, and literally lost everything. So my mom and I lived in a camper shell on the back of a truck for an extended period of time. So I don't come from money. As Ron White would say, I come from no money. Right? And I'm sure that experience gave me calluses and helped make me the man I am today. Guess what? There's other ways to build calluses, right? You don't have to go through, I don't need my grandkids to go through that experience. So there's other ways to set challenges up and help them grow and develop without having to become homeless. But I got to see my mom as the hardest worker I've ever met. I mean, hardest working person ever, not woman, person out of everyone I've ever met, to the point where when she was over 75 years old, she was still running a construction crew, climbing up on roofs and inspecting roofs, right?
Wow.
Just running these, and didn't need to. I tried to retire her multiple times, but she was like a shark. She just had to keep on swimming. And then finally, I got a call where she said, "Honey, I just got diagnosed with cancer." And I said, "Mom, I'm retiring you right now." So I retired her from Lodi, California, moved her into our house in Nashville. And for the next 4 months, she went through remission. And the office didn't see me. I was taking her to Destin, Florida on vacations. If she needed to go to the hospital, I was there by her side, going to the movies, right? Anything she wanted to do for the next 4 months, that's what we did. Any job I've ever had in my life, I would have lost my job during that 4 months. But because the seed had been planted early on to be an entrepreneur, to have a business, and once I found this model to be able to teach people how to run their own agency, the drive-through was running whether I was there or not. The agency was successful whether I was there or not. Our income didn't go down. Our income didn't stay the same. Our income actually went up during that 4 months. But I gladly would have lost everything financially to be able to give back to my mom. What an amazing blessing not to have to. And one of the things that stood out for me, and as she was going through that, is when I first retired her and moved her into our house, she says, "Honey, I don't have any money saved up for retirement." I'm like, "Yeah, you do, Mom." Because I'd actually set up some accounts, and I thought maybe just going through chemo, that are, you get the chemo brain and you kind of foggy on some stuff. I thought maybe she just forgot about the fact that we had some accounts set up that were on auto draft. The money was automatically going into them. And she looks at me and she says, "Yeah, about that." I'm like, "Mom, what did you do?" She had cashed out the accounts and bought racehorses.
Whoa.
She bought slow racehorses. Moral of that story: don't buy slow racehorses. You've heard of someone betting the farm and losing it
Right.
all? That was my mom. And she was devastated that she had cancer. I think she was more devastated that she'd worked her whole life and had nothing financial to show for it. And I said, "Mom, when you had me, you had your retirement, you're good." And I want that for people. The tear, she cried and I cried because I'm a big softie when my mom would cry, right? But I want that for people. I want you to be able to be that go-to person. I want you to have success in your business. I want you to not work for a paycheck for the rest of your life where someone else controls how much money you make. I want you to be able to get to that place financially where you have the time and financial freedom, that not to be a doormat to other people where people are taking advantage of you, but if you see an opportunity or you see a need and you want to fill it, I want you to be in a place financially and time-wise where you have the ability, because there's nothing like that feeling of being able to give back to something that you feel is worthy and you have the time and the money to be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
How do you keep up with your own learning? Is it by reading books, by attending conferences? There are a couple like mentors that you have. How do you stay abreast of what's going on?
Wow. So yes, yes, and yes. I was a terrible student in school and did not love learning at that point. When I got my first job outside of school, where I learned that, oh wait, this actually getting a better education, learning a little bit and applying it means you're more successful. I got a voracious appetite for learning. One of my first books I was ever encouraged to read once I got into a training role was a book called Zig by Zig Ziglar.
Hmm.
And Zig Ziglar, who passed away not too long ago, was way ahead of his time on a lot of stuff. But I had one book that I was reading, and like by chapter 4 in the book, it says, "Hey, we're talking about voice inflection here. Send away for a free cassette tape." I'm talking about the old cassette tape you had to put a pencil in and
Yeah.
twist, right,
Yeah.
to tighten it up. Right, some of the people following along know what we're talking about. But I sent away for the free cassette tape on voice inflection, and it talked about not being monotone in your conversation, right? So it
Right.
talked about how do you increase your voice inflection. I didn't say he wrecked the car, and then you say it 5 different ways. I didn't say he
Right.
wrecked the car. I didn't say he wrecked the car. I didn't say he wrecked the car. I didn't say he wrecked the car, right? So just learning how to add a little bit of emphasis on different
Yeah.
words to change what the meaning is. And you come up with 5 different meanings in the same 7-word sentence. And the problem with that cassette, though, is that free cassette at the end of it says, oh, by the way, this is cassette 4 of a 16 tape set.
Mm.
And on the next cassette, the most important key, and just leaves you hanging, right? So you have to order so back then I didn't have the money, but I spent the money to buy the 18, the 16 cassette tape series. And that's all I had. I didn't have any other distractions. I didn't have YouTube and TikTok and all these other social media platforms.
Mm.
All I had in my car was that set of tapes, and I didn't listen to the radio. I just listened to those cassettes over and over and over. I literally wore them out, had to go buy some Memorex cassettes and re-record them onto there until I could do every single story in that set of cassettes verbatim. And then once I knew how to do all the stories verbatim, then I translated them into the businesses that I was in, and how would I kind of add that story to my own story and use my own twist on that. And that was my foundational learning on self-improvement and self-development. So that was my first foray into it. And one of the next books I read was Psycho-Cybernetics.
Oh.
And Psycho-Cybernetics talks about just visualization. And he was a plastic surgeon. And he talked about how he'd have these amazing surgeries where he'd take these massive scars and eliminate them. And the person would still see the scar when they looked in the mirror, even though before and after pictures shows that it wasn't there. And it came down to this psychic self-image. How do we see ourselves in our mind versus how do we see ourselves? So just that first real big foray into how do you visualize, how do you put yourself in the right state, how do you get yourself to take action? I mean, just all of those things for, when you read the books like Think and Grow Rich, which right
Yeah.
there. If you haven't read that one, highly recommend that for everyone who's listening. I mean, every multimillionaire I know will point back to that as one of their foundational books that they've read. But it talks about in there on page 36 of see, feel, and believe yourself already in possession of that which you desire. But it doesn't really tell you how to believe yourself into that. But when you take that along with the visualization techniques, literally climbing into a car, seeing your hands on the steering wheel, not seeing yourself from a distance, but stepping in and like literally seeing your hands on it, pushing the button, feeling the rumble of the car, see, feel, and believe yourself. That's the immersive visualization experience 2, 3, 4 times a day, every day, on those things that you want to be turning on your reticular activating system and actually create the sensory acuity to be noticing all these things that can help you get towards that goal that are still there. You just aren't tuned into them, so you just don't notice them. Sort of like when you buy a white car, the next day, everywhere you look, you see white cars. You didn't see any the day before, but when you went to the car dealership to buy the white car, you went for a test drive in it, you got out of it, you walked around it, you went in to do the paperwork, you kept looking out the window at it, you drove it home, you looked at it some more, right? So that night when you go to sleep, your brain's like, oh, that's important to you. Let me show you all the white cars that you've been missing up to this point. So you turn on that part of your brain that becomes that sonar dish to see it all. Those white cars were always there. You just weren't paying attention to them. So its job is to filter things out and to not be a distraction. So if the air conditioning comes on and your hair on your arm moves, you don't freak out like, what's going on? But you do notice when a bee lands on your arm, because that's different, right? So it just wants to put you on autopilot as much as possible. So you aren't having to try to learn all the things that are being processed at every given moment. But the problem is, it's deleting a lot of stuff that actually could serve you. So that's where visualization and having your goals and rereading them puts that stuff back at the forefront, where your radar dish comes up and you're actually able to notice all these connections, all these things that can happen. I mean, how crazy is it that I eat nothing but McDonald's for 100 days? Today's Show, Morning in America, People Met, just all these media outlets. And then one of the people following along is an actor, and he tells me he's using the techniques I was describing to lose weight for a role. I ask him, how'd that go? He's like, hey, I got the role. I had the second Today Show interview, the reveal party. And when I got that recording, I sent it to him and said, hey, from an actor's perspective, can you just kind of review this and see if there's anything I could have done better on the live interview, right? And he calls me back 10 minutes later. He's like, dude, I'm here with my producer, my director. They love you. They don't even want you to interview for a role. They've got 2 movies they're doing right now. They actually have roles for you right now. Would you come out to Denver and film? I'm like, it's not an adult movie, is it? He's like, no, it's a Lifetime Christmas movie, like a holiday movie. I'm like, I'm in. And my wife and I went down, and it's actually been bought. It's actually been produced. It's actually the red carpet event has happened.
Wow.
So Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday. I'm the dad of the female lead. Just all this stuff happened from eating a Big Mac on TikTok. All I really wanted to do was have a video food log. because whenever you're going to lose weight, having a food log is an important part of that process. So I'm like, oh, I'll just do it with video on my phone. And my daughter said, well, you should post that on TikTok every day. And I'm like, honey, I don't even know how to post something on TikTok. She's like, I'll help you. So she went through the process of showing me how to clip the videos and right, create the little, words on it and do everything. And that very first video we posted where I kind of walked through what I was planning on doing exploded, went to 2.4 million views, went to 20 million views overall for the 100 days. So just crazy how one little decision, all of a sudden, all these other dominoes fall as a part of that process.
Yeah, seriously. And what you mentioned about your own mother too, and how you helped her out, like her retirement was taken care of while you were like with her. Your daughter here is kind of helping you add value to others through her expertise and her knowledge. It's kind of interesting how that works out.
Yep. Yeah. So, and this whole thing came off of the knowledge thing. So that's where I started getting my voracious appetite for learning. And then just noticing as I learned more, I was able to be more successful, and I was able to coach others and have them have more success by giving these little tidbits that I learned that I applied that made my life easier. And I've always been a fan of what is it. Some people are lazy and they're looking for an easier way to do something so they can be lazy. I look for an easy way to do something so I can do it the easiest way possible and just do massive action. I'll wear you out on the action. Doing it in the most effective way possible is my goal. I loved it when I was in school and they said to do your 9 times tables, just count over that many fingers. Like 9 times 4, just count over 4 fingers. You got 3 on one side, you got 6 on the other. 9 times 4 is 36. I could do that under the table, right? My hands, I could do math, right? I love that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
love finding the life hacks, the shortcuts, the easier way. But then I'll just outwork you doing those because I grew up on a ranch, breaking and training horses. So I've got the work ethic, but why not work as effectively as possible?
So, Kevin, you really shared a lot of interesting perspectives with us, some humorous stories, some touching stories, but largely it was about, I think, unearthing unknowns and changing perspectives, working smarter, not necessarily harder, and using $1, like double dipping the dollar. Was there anything that you wanted to kind of drill down a little further on, or anything we didn't mention that you want to highlight before we close?
I love that your whole mindset of helping entrepreneurs get the skills, the tools, the resources they need to actually make that journey. And in many cases, it's a lonely journey. In many cases, you're going up against the wall, and understanding that the struggle, the frustration that if you read autobiographies of any great person, they will tell of right before their greatness, whatever greatness that was, whatever success that was. Why is the autobiography being written about them? There's something, or a biography being written about somebody. They probably had something successful happen in their life, otherwise they wouldn't be having that written about them. So, but almost every single one of them talks about how the dark before the dawn, right? How dark, how bad it gets, the rug getting pulled out from underneath them, the factory being burned down. Right before they have their biggest successes, there's always some big stumbling block, some big challenge that happens. And it's the ones who stick with it. It's almost like whether it's God or the universe or just infinite intelligence saying, do you really want this? I'm going to give you one final test. Are you going to? And when I was in the military, when I got on the boxing team, they trained us for 3 months to try out for the boxing team. You had to do 3-hour workouts a day, run 6 miles a day, plus your normal PT,
Wow.
just for 3 months. So you're in phenomenal shape before they ever let you step in the ring. So they poured all this time and energy and investment into you, and they don't even know the first time you get punched in the face,
Right.
are you going to curl up in the fetal position and roll out of the ring, or are you going to bow up and say, come on, let's go? They have no idea. But they can't let you step in the ring unless you're physically able to withstand some stuff. So they've got to put that training on you and teach you how to defend yourself and how to move, etc. And only put you in the ring if they feel you at least can handle yourself, but they still don't know if you can take a punch.
Right.
And I remember the first time I stepped in the ring, and I share the story because you're going to feel like this as an entrepreneur at times. The first time I stepped in the ring, I'm like, I'd grown up rodeoing. I was a cowboy. You're back to back with other cowboys fighting your way out of the club at times. I mean, it's a normal occurrence for someone to say something, and you're climbing on the back of 2,000-pound bulls. So the 185-pound guy giving you a side eye, whatever, let's go. And I had a short fuse back then, so I think Zig Ziglar is a whole nother story from Zig Ziglar on literally saving my life
Yeah.
from having a short fuse. But anyhow, to put a bow on this for you, I step into the ring And there is no doubt in my mind that whoever steps in the ring on the other side is getting knocked out. I mean, I'm there, no doubt in my mind it's over for them. Unbeknownst to me, the guy that steps in was already ranked in the top 10 in amateur boxing. Also, unbeknownst to me, fighting and boxing are two completely different things. So I step in, bell rings, I charge the center, I start throwing punches, I back him into the corner. I'm like, oh, I got him in the corner. And I'm throwing leather and I'm throwing punches so hard, any one of these lands, you think Mike Tyson just knocked you out of the top rope. And I'm throwing everything I've got in every punch. Within 30 seconds, I am completely gassed after 3 months of training, but the adrenaline, the energy, and how hard I'm throwing these punches. And this guy, he's just rolling with the punches. He's just kind of letting them, right, just moving with them. And after about 30 seconds, I'm, and all the power is gone. And I see him kind of peek out right behind his gloves, and he can see that my mouth's open, which you're not supposed to be open mouth, and gasping for breath. And for the next 2.5 minutes, he just wears me out. I am a human punching bag. I can't block a single punch. Everything he wants, he's putting on a clinic to everybody else on how to beat the tar out of somebody for 2.5 minutes, just beating me around the ring. Bell rings, I stagger to my corner, and no one in my corner expects me to get up for round 2. Everyone in the corner is like, so, have you had enough? And I'm like, let's go, round 2. And they're like, all right, we got a live one, right? Your business career is going to feel like that at times. And when it does, just understand that's usually you're one step away from having some really big success in your career.
Wise words. I'll certainly remember that. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for sharing some of your insights. Really interesting story on a couple of levels. Where can people follow what you're doing? Do you have a social media handle you want us to follow, or your website?
Yeah, at Big Mac Coaching is probably the easiest way to track me down, both on all the platforms. At Big Mac Coaching is probably the easiest way to track me down.
Great. Well, thanks again, Kevin. Keep up the great work, and hope you make that 100 billion soon.
Take care. Appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much.